Prime Ministers and provincial politics. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is in private meetings today. At least that's what his schedule tells us. It's not true. Let me tell you why this matters. Since coming into office, Trudeau and his staff have made a big deal of saying we're much more open than those nasty Harper conservatives. See, Stephen Harper would just alert the media and the public if he had a public event. The Prime Minister will attend such and such at such and such date, time, blah, blah, blah. Trudeau puts out a news release every day, paid for by you, translated into both languages, and quite often it just says private meetings. That's the claim today, that he's in private meetings. But the reality, it's a little bit different. We know that he is in the GTA. He's campaigning in an Eastern Toronto area by-election, but not for the federal Liberals. He's campaigning for Kathleen Wynne's Ontario Liberals. This is odd for several reasons. Let me list them off and then explain them. One, Liberals used to complain about prime ministers having anything to say about provincial politics. I'll get to that in a minute. Secondly, there's the cost. This is going to be a huge cost for the local campaign if they apportion Justin Trudeau's travel time, his staff time, his security to their local campaign, as they should. And we'll see if Elections Ontario does. I'll explain that in a moment. And then three, this just never happens. It never happens. I've been racking my brain trying to think of prime ministers going to campaign in federal by-elections, and they don't do it. So let's go back to the top. Liberals used to complain about prime ministers being involved in provincial politics at all. May 2006, May 6, 2006 to be exact, Partisan Harper insulted Ontario, read a headline in the Toronto Star. In fact, the Star ran stories on the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th. For several days, they ran stories about this. CBC ran stories about this. What happened? Well, Prime Minister Stephen Harper, Mean Steve, the guy they never liked, went down to Toronto. He had a private meeting with Ontario's then Premier Dalton McGuinty, Liberal Premier. By all accounts, on both sides, it was a good meeting. They had a good working relationship over a number of years, by the way. But then Stephen Harper went to a fundraiser for John Tory, who was then leader of the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party. He said good things about Tory, including saying he'll be the next Premier of Ontario. Well, Liberals were outraged, and the Toronto Red Star, the mouthpiece of the Liberal Party, dutifully carried these stories for days upon end about how this was an outrageous affront to all Ontarians, that the Prime Minister was being involved in partisan Ontario politics. He introduced a longtime friend and someone he'd campaigned with at several levels as the next Premier. As Harper said in the House of Commons, this shouldn't be a shock to anyone. But now we've got Justin Trudeau actually campaigning, going to visit a local by-election. It's a seat that was vacated by Christine Elliott, former Progressive Conservative MPP, the wife of the late Jim Flaherty. Why is he involving himself in that? Well, it's payback for Wynne, who campaigned nonstop. Let's get to the expense issue. The Elections Canada confirmed during the middle of the federal election campaign that all those campaign stops that Kathleen Wynne made with her big entourage of staff, that had to be, it had to count as costs against the local campaigns. Is Elections Ontario going to take the same view? Because if so, the cost of getting the Prime Minister and his full entourage down to the Whitby area for a by-election, that's going to blow the budget. If Elections Ontario doesn't count this, then shame on them, and it might just show a bit of funny goings-on at the provincial elections regulator. So watch for that to happen. The entire cost, a portion of his security, portion of his transportation, all of that should be apportioned to the local candidate. They have strict spending limits. Let's see if this is part of it. Lastly, another reason this is so odd, prime ministers just don't do this. Can you think of a single by-election that Stephen Harper went to campaign in at the federal level? Can you think of a by-election that Paul Martin went to campaign in? No. What about Jean Chrétien? Nope. In fact, speaking to people with long political memories, the only by-election any of us can remember with a prime minister going to actively campaign, and hey, correct me if I'm wrong, is Brian Mulroney trying to save Lucien Bouchard's seat back when he was still a PC, before he'd formed the Bloc Québécois. Before that, again, memories start to get foggy. This isn't how it's normally done. One, you don't do it because if the candidate loses, you don't want the leader wearing it. Two, they don't do it because of the cost and how it blows out the budget of the local campaign. There's so many reasons not to do this, but Justin Trudeau is doing it for one reason: to help his friend Kathleen Wynne, who we just found out spent $600,000 of Ontario taxpayers' money running television ads and other advertisements for the Ontario Retirement Pension Plan in the middle of the federal election. Yes, she was running partisan ads to help her friend Justin on the taxpayers' dime during the election on an issue on which she campaigned, on an issue which the Liberals campaigned on, using your money. This is payback from Trudeau to Wynne. The question is, will you stand for it? Will the taxpayers stand for it? And will Elections Ontario allow this to happen?